President Biden has been caught falsifying data in his recent proposal for workplace regulations to reinforce his false narrative of an existential climate threat. Biden has made outlandish claims, such as stating that a 2,300 heat related deaths that have occurred in the country and the workplace last year, we don't have any data to support that. Stephen Malloy is Senior Energy and Environmental Institute Legal Fellow, joining me now with more. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Stacey, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, so 2,300 deaths. Who were they? Who or were they
Yeah,
imaginary people? Who were they?
yeah. So last week or so, the Biden administration proposed new heat regulations to prevent work or heat-related deaths, and the talking point they gave the media was that in 2023, 2,300 people died from heat stroke, basically. And of course, I know that's not true, but I did some a little bit of research on it and found out that the actual number is probably more on the order of 50. Now, 50 is still too many deaths from heat stroke, but it's a lot different than 2,300. And of those, I guess what's most important is of those 2,300, a lot of them occur because people are homeless, because they've got substance abuse problems. They're not workers. I mean, these are, homeless people are not like field laborers or construction workers. And these drug abusers can't do those jobs either. But these people are out there on the streets. It's really hot in places like Phoenix, and that's really where most of the deaths occur. It's with the homeless and with the substance abusers, and maybe a few others that don't have access to cooling or hydration. But it's not the workers.
So let's talk about this for a second. And we can indulge ourselves, but could it be, Steve? I'm just throwing things out there. We don't know, but we can never tell someone's mind, but we can look around them and we can look at their actions and things that they say, and we can take guesses. And so I'll just throw a guess out and you tell me if it sounds even plausible. Could it be that the rampant homelessness that's actually increased under the Biden administration is something that isn't an easy fix? So perhaps blaming it on climate is a way to kind of paper over the fact that they've done nothing about the homeless issue in the United States. I'm just saying it could be that.
Yeah, it's really hard to know what people are thinking, but Democrats have let the country go to rot, basically, and it's happening, not only on the national level with the Biden administration, but you go down to the urban level, where these homelessness and drug abuse problems are really serious, and then you have the heat waves come in, and yeah, they want to blame it on something other than what it is, which is really their fault, their failed policy. So they want to blame it on global warming because then they can blame big oil.
Yeah, yeah, and these policies all dovetail together for the Democrats. They link all of their policies together to create a cohesive messaging strategy that they can use. So, homelessness, well, you can blame climate change because when people die, it's obviously due to climate change, not homelessness. And you kind of go on down. Each domino connects to the next. Each one goes back to a policy that they haven't fixed, they
Yeah.
haven't done anything about. And then it makes it easier for them. And then the emotionality comes into it because people will hear 2,300 fathers and wives who died on the workplace, horrible capitalist workplaces that don't care
Right.
about people, right?
Right. Right. No, the whole thing works together for them, right? I mean, and these are really problems they have created. And it's almost like they create the problems so that they can surf the problems. You see this a lot in climate with, let's take wildfires, for example. You know who creates wildfires? It's not global warming, it's Democrats and the green policies that they implement. They basically neglect forests and they turn them into tinderboxes. And then when they catch on fire, as tinderboxes are wont to do, then they blame, big oil. And it's they create problems so that they can blame it where, on the politically incorrect party.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, also Tucker Carlson in his book, he wrote about how they actually have done investigations, and a certain percentage of all wildfires are also they're man-made. They're people who actually either do a campfire or it's
Yeah.
arson. They had a rash of wildfires in California that were connected to arson, also in Arizona. So, I mean, obviously there are different factors at play. Arson is a crime. doing a campfire and not following Smokey the Bear's instructions to make sure it's completely out before you leave. That's another thing. That's not negligence. But these are different things that are at play, all involving human beings, none of which are out of our control. You can clear the brush, clear the dead wood. It reduces the amount of chance that you're going to have a brush fire or a wildfire in that area. So all of it goes back to decisions that we are making to either do what's right
Yeah.
or not do what's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So with heat deaths, heat deaths have declined dramatically over the last 100 years or so because of the advent of air conditioning and just knowledge about, staying cool and staying hydrated in heat. Wildfires has similarly declined. They're all, to the extent that they're increasing. It's only because we've neglected the forests, and when you neglect forests, well, there's more opportunities for campfire accidents or down power lines or arson. Last year we had the East Coast was blanketed in bad air because of Canadian wildfires. As it turned out, 30 years ago, the Canadians had replanted forests with this sort of tree that firefighters called gas on a stick.
Right.
And then they neglected it. So of course, when they catch on fire, they just erupt into these mass conflagrations. And these things are always more complicated than the fake news media likes to present. But what can you do?
Well, one thing we could do is we could stop listening to the environmentalists because
Mm.
they don't seem to have good results. And they also are huge hypocrites because I'll never forget how much fanfare Al Gore received for his book, An Inconvenient Truth, for his, he received, I think, even some awards for being an environmentalist and caring about the earth and how much that extends into caring about people. And then I realized that you could see Al Gore's house from space. He has so many light bulbs in his home that are on all the time. It's a landmark you can see from space. You can geolocate a part of the American hemisphere. Like you can say, I know that's North America, and let me show you that's this city, that's that city, and that's Al Gore's house.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, why is he telling us what kind of light bulbs we can use when he uses so many light bulbs? And I have a lot of light bulbs too, but my point is he shouldn't be the one to tell us how to limit our consumption. And it's many of the people who are like that. Many of the Hollywood stars, they use private jets instead of commercial airliners. I mean, we could go on and on about the hypocrisy of it all.
Yes. Yeah, just last month, Jill Biden, she was one day in Normandy for the D-Day celebrations. Then she jetted back to Delaware so that she could be at Hunter Biden's trial. Then she jetted back to Paris to attend a state dinner with her husband. And that's a pretty big carbon footprint. Now the Greens don't want you to fly, but it's okay if Joe Biden does. And then every time there's like Davos, there's all these private jets coming in. It's just the hypocrisy is just incredible. We're going to see some at the Paris Olympics coming up. The Paris Olympic organizers did not put air conditioning in the athletic dorms. So of course all the green conscious countries, the wealthy Western countries, are allowing their athletes to bring portable air conditioners so that they can stay cool. But the poor country athletes, they're not going to be able to, their countries can't afford portable air conditioners, so they're going to be sweating it out in the Paris dorms. I call this air conditioning apartheid. Because the poor countries, they can't afford this, but wealthy countries can. The wealthy countries are the ones screaming about climate.
So I just so I understand, because this is a new story that I hadn't stumbled across. The hypocrisy is glaring at me. Are you saying that they're going to actually bring in so from outside of the country, they're flying in the portable air conditioners? Because I'm assuming these athletes, because they're elite, they'll be taking charter aircraft. So on a
Yeah.
aircraft, you don't have the same luggage restrictions. If you're flying charter, you can bring 20 bags if you want to. It's really the weight limit is up to how many people are going to be on the plane. The fewer the people, the more luggage you can bring. So an Olympic team of maybe 20, let's say even 50 athletes, who knows? That means it's not a full 737, 747. So they have a lot of room for luggage. So they're going to take up all of that extra weight that would be people with portable air conditioners that they
Right.
obviously have had electrified to fit the European outlets because we all know European outlets are not the same as here. We use 120, they use 220. I mean, are you telling me all that? Am I right? Am I right about these things?
Yeah, so the U.S. Olympic Committee is going to be, importing these, modified portable air conditioners so that the U.S. athletes can stay cool. Meanwhile, the Ugandan athletes, for example, they just can't afford that. They're just going to be them, they're just going to be sweating it out. And of course, in the United States is all about being green, and the Paris Olympic organizers are all about being green. But the only ones that are forced to be green are the poor country athletes. Everybody else, forget it. Rules don't
Well,
apply to us.
athletes might not be used to air conditioning. They might not care because France might actually be cooler than Uganda temperature wise. I mean, it is Europe. So they might not be as hot, you know, based on what they're used to. As Americans, we're used to extremely hot temperatures, but we also we're used to cold temperatures too because we keep it icy cold inside and it's burning up hot like hell outside, and we just deal with it in and out, in and out. I find that to be a comical tale that someone who does cartoons, someone who's, a political cartoon, they should make a cartoon out of this reality because we need that kind of juxtaposition to help us understand how truly elite our society is that we're flying in our own portable air conditioners for our athletes to make sure that they're comfortable. Steve, every time you join me here on the show, I learn something new and I feel blessed to be an American, but I also feel like I'm wearing a mantle of hypocrisy. Steve Malloy, your website is Junk Science, and we love it so much. You're actually senior E&E Institute legal fellow and former Trump EPA team member. We love it so much that you're coming to us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Stacey.
All right, we'll talk again soon. And coming up after this S&C fast break, Democrats are fear-mongering about the Heritage Foundation's presidential transition project. I'll tell you more after this.